name is Mohammed Ahmadi, and today I'll be demonstrating my Comp 3005 term project. So I decided to do my term project as a soccer database. So basically, a little background: soccer is my personal favorite sport, and it is also the most popular sport in the world. So I decided to create a database to hold the information of professional players, like their stats, their nationality, and their injury status, and as well as the teams and the players within those teams, and the competitions they compete in. So this database will just basically be used to view these player stats and determine the impact they've had on a competition or on their respective teams. Some basic application requirements: obviously hold the stats, the teams, the nationalities, and the competitions, and the injury statuses. But the important ones are: you should be able to search for specific players, the wrappers and command line interface, and also the database is scalable, so you can create SQL scripts to insert new data into the database, exactly like how we did in assignment 1, where we had to insert new albums into a musical database. So since this is all public information, everything in this database is public information, there's no copyright issues. We'll get our raw data from websites like PremierLeague.com and WhoScored.com. And going over the ER diagram, we have the player entity, which is in an end-to-end relationship called plays for with team. So they have each team and player has a unique identifier, and end-to-end because teams can obviously have many players, and also players can play for multiple teams. Specifically, we are considering clubs and national teams. So, for example, we have a player like Mbappe. He's playing for Real Madrid, and he is playing for the France national team. So therefore, players can play for multiple teams. So, and also team is an end-to-end relationship with competition. Competition has a unique identifier, and obviously teams can have can be competing in many competitions during a season, and competitions obviously have many teams competing in them. So for teams, if a team is a national team, then the team name and the country attributes will have the same value. So if we look at France as an example, the team name will be France and the country will also be France. But for any other team, it will just be the country. For clubs, the country will be the country it's located in. So for Manchester United, the country will be England. And competition, the regions in competition could be anything from like a local, could be like the city. It could be a country like the Premier League in England, or it could be the entire world, like the World Cup. Like for the World Cup, region would be world. So here we have 3 weak entities connected to player. These are basically the stats that I will be displaying. So offensive stats, defensive stats, and also, as we mentioned, the player's injury status. And these are all weak entities. And here's our schema that I used to implement the database. In SQL, as you can see, the weak entities have player ID as a foreign key. And we also have, for our 2 end-to-end relationships, we have tables. So plays for and plays in. They both have their own tables with their own keys. So here's a basic demonstration. Once you run the program, you are greeted with a menu. So our first use case is obviously viewing a player's stats. So first we enter 1. We enter a player's name that we want to view. So we'll enter Messi, and we can see his basic stats. He's 37 years old. He's a forward. He's from Argentina. He's played 17 games this season, and he is currently injured. So this is the secondary, like a secondary refinement or query-based query. And we have this little menu to choose from to get these secondary refined queries. So we can view Messi's offensive stats. We can see he has scored 23 goals, he has 29 assists, he creates 5 chances per game, and dribbles 4 times per game. And we can also view his injury. So he's currently injured, as it says here, and his injury is an ACL, and it'll take him 135 days to recover. If we enter 2, we can view his defensive stats, but since Messi is a forward, he won't have defensive stats. So most forwards in this database won't have defensive stats. Some will, but most of them won't. And Messi is one of them who doesn't. And then we exit this menu, and we'll look at another player who has defensive stats. We'll look at Valverde. So defensive stats are typically for midfielders and defenders. Midfield players whose positions is midfield typically have both defensive and offensive stats. So as we can see here, if we enter 1, we can see Valverde has offensive stats. Format is exactly how Messi's was. If we enter 2, we can see that he also has defensive stats. You can see he has 3 tackles per game, 5 blocks per game, and 3 fouls per game. And Valverde, we see here he is not injured. So if we enter 3 to view his injury, it will say that the player is not currently injured, so there's nothing to so there's no stats to display. Now we'll look at the stats of a defender as well, just so you can see what that looks like. Enter Van Dijk. So Van Dijk's a 31-year-old defender from the Netherlands who's played 50 games this season. Offensive stats, no offensive stats available for this player. He is a defender. And here are his defensive stats. So our secondary use case is to see the players in a team. So we'll look at a team like, we'll enter 2 for that menu option. We'll look at a team like Real Madrid. And we'll see these are currently the players in Real Madrid that are in the database. And so the team obviously has multiple players, but we can see if we look at Mbappe here, view players in the team, and we enter France, you can see that Mbappe also plays for the France national team. So he's playing for 2 teams at the same time. It's not just him either. You can look at Portugal. You can see Ronaldo's both in Real Madrid and in Portugal. Yep, right there. That was our secondary use case, and this is also an example of the end-to-end relationship we have, and just an example for the other end-to-end relationship. So we go over all the requirements in the grading scheme. So enter competition's name, we'll enter UEFA Champions League. And these are currently the teams who are playing in the UEFA Champions League. So you can see, we can do another one to do the Premier League. Oh, I misspelled it. So we see here Manchester United and Tottenham and Liverpool, they're competing in the Premier League. Okay, well Liverpool isn't, but Manchester United and Tottenham are also competing in the Champions League, so that's where the end-to-end aspect comes in. So we'll exit this menu. So exit the database, we'll get a little goodbye message. Just going over the program a bit. So we use this execute query function to execute the queries, and the queries depend on the user input. So we get the player's name, in this example to display the player stats, we enter the player's name, and then based on that we do a query and execute it against the database. And this is exactly an SQL query, just like so it doesn't hide the fact that this is an SQL query. And this is for everything in this database. So the player name, the execute query based on the user input. And this is for everything. Quick look at the database itself. We see that the tables are the same as the ER diagram. We have player, we have team, we have competition, we have the weak entities who have player ID from player as a foreign key. And we also have the tables for the end-to-end relationships, plays for and plays in. So that's my demonstration of my term project. I look forward to hearing feedback from you, and thank you for watching.